Drummers I Like podcast, episode number 15. Hey everybody, welcome to the Drummers I Like podcast. That's right, it's episode 15. My name's Richard Ducat. I'm your host. I'm coming in from Santa Monica, the Drummers I Like headquarters. On the other line is my co-host, Kevin, coming in from Vero Beach, Florida. What's up, Kevin? How you doing tonight?
I am doing fine. Glad to be here for another episode of the Drummers I Like podcast. Glad everybody's listening and ready for an exciting show. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain. I'm podcasting in a very comfortable way right now. I got my legs up on the desk. I'm nice and relaxed. I got the blinders open, and everyone's just kind of looking in like, what's this guy doing right now?
He's chilling with his feet up,
I
podcasting.
just point him to the drummersilike.com sticker and just tell him to check it out for themselves.
That's right. Maybe they're drummers. You never know.
Actually, I met a couple musicians in here that have stopped in and just asked about the show and what we were doing, and it's been pretty cool. Some nice experiences.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Richard, I think we should clue everybody in on who we have on the show today. What do you think?
Yeah, man, let us know. Tell me. Tell
We
us.
we have Mike Levine or Michael. I don't even know if he likes to go by Michael or not.
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out shortly here. But Mike Levine, he's a brilliant drummer.
Nasty.
Playing with Exotype right now, and
The
yeah,
Poison
I mean,
Kitchen, too. Band called
what
The
was that?
Poison Kitchen. He's also playing with a band called The Poison Kitchen.
Oh, there we go. Poison. I like that name.
I know, right? I know why you like it, and I think you know why I like it.
Well, we're always playing around in the Poison Kitchen.
Yes, that's right.
It reminds me of it kind of reminds me of the Frank Zappa song "Dangerous Kitchen." Any of you older guys out there, or young guys that like Frank Zappa,
I was
will
just thinking Poison the Well.
were you really? Yeah.
That's
Well,
what it's reminded me of that for a second, that's all. The name, not the sound,
not
but
the
the
sound.
name. The name.
I think Poison the Well was just doing some shows recently too. They did. I think it was very, very select, but they just kind of got back together and did some shows. Would have been cool
You
to see them.
you told me about the one that was in LA, and I effed and missed it, but
Richard,
yeah.
Richard, Richard.
What I'm actually stoked about too is that Mike did a little bit of playing with Glasscloud, and that's like, I love that band. I love that guitar player because it's the Danzig guitar players in Glasscloud, and he's just the heaviest. It's just so
Is
sick. That's a sick guy. He's sick. Ugh.
Now is that the same guitarist that's working with Amir now? I think
He is.
I was gonna say I know one of the guys from Danzig came over to Amir, so
He is. He is.
well, that's kind of a culture shock, right? A little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
But
not culture shock, but definitely style
yeah, I
shock a
mean,
bit.
it makes sense. He writes the heavy. You've listened to Danza
Yeah,
before,
of course
right?
I have. Of
Right.
course I have.
Okay. So I mean, I know that in Imur is a little bit more simplified as far as the technicality of the music, but
Sure.
I mean, he'll probably just go in there and do his thing. It's not like anyone's gonna complain. It's
That's
gonna be
true.
it's gonna be so happy.
And I like both, so I'm sure lots of people like both too.
Yes. Yep. Yes. So yeah, man. Before we get too caught up in conversation, I just want to make sure that we point all our users over to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, like right now. If you haven't liked it, if you haven't followed us on Twitter, liked us on Facebook, Instagram, now is the time to do it. It's at Drummers I Like on Instagram and Twitter, and then Facebook.com/Drummers I Like. We also have a YouTube channel where we're posting new videos all the time. That's YouTube.com/Drummers I Like. So take a moment, pause this episode of Drummers I Like, and go like, tweet, give us a Facebook like, an Instagram like, follow us, comment on a photo,
Share
and
something.
share something. Share something. And speaking of sharing, I'm going to kind of derail Kevin real quick before we get onto the show and we've been getting reviews on the podcast, and I'm pretty excited. I kind of want to read one. If you want to take a minute and let me do that, Kevin.
Yeah, do it too.
Absolutely. This one is from dman_2113. This came in the September 10th. Love the Drummers I Like podcast. You really get an in-depth look at the masters of this craft, the ones who are doing it big and keeping it original. I've learned so much just listening, and it makes me want to go home and push myself to match the level of expertise on these podcasts. It makes it so much better that the ones interviewing these drum slayers, I like that word, slayers, are also, are also drummers themselves and ask such probing questions. This is my go-to, and I can't wait to see what artist is next. So thank you, dman_2113. That was a nice, humbling interview. We really appreciate it, man. We're doing the best we can, and we're just really glad that these drummers coming on are inspiring you to push yourself even further.
Yeah, no, D-Man, really appreciate it. I mean, that really is what we're trying to do here, get that info into the hands of the regular people that are trying to hone their craft. And I think there's a lot to take from these that, gives you that good insight on somebody that's out there doing it professionally. So you got to take advantage of any sort of opportunity you have to use some of their knowledge and further your own playing. So
Yeah, I
so we're
agree.
glad that that's actually working somewhat. So please
Yeah,
tell us more if there's more of you out there that share in those feelings or have anything else to tell us about the show. Please go on there, give us a review. We'll
yeah,
read
you
it on the
can.
show. We'll give a shout out like we did for D Man, and
dman
we'll go from there.
2113. Cool, cool. And yep, the links to leave a review in iTunes are in the show notes below. The podcast, that is, not below me exactly. And same with we don't have anything for the Google yet, but if you just check out the podcast on Google, we have yet to be able to find a way to leave reviews yet, but I don't know, maybe that's just us. If you find a way, let us know, and we'll get a link up for that too. Also on Stitcher, there's a cool little place you can leave reviews. It's really simple. Just go to our podcast on Stitcher. Links in the sidebar on our website,
All
and
right,
then
that's right.
yeah, let us know. We'll read off. We've been getting them like we've been getting a lot of reviews, so we're gonna keep reading them off every week and continue this pattern of shouting out our users. It's really cool, man. We really appreciate everyone's time and the effort that it takes just to kind of give us your 2 cents, whether or not you like us or hate us. We really want to know. So
Yeah, and to elaborate a little bit more on what Rich said too, for you Google Play listeners out there too, like you said, if there is a way that we just can't find, then please let us know. But if there's not, instead of leaving us a review, write them an email. Write Google.
yeah,
Tell them you want to be
you can do
able to
that too.
review the podcasts, and maybe they'll start to listen if enough of you guys respond. So,
Hit up the big G
in
man.
light of doing that, go hit Google up. Tell them they need to be getting on that.
I'm not too far. I'll have to take a ride down there and just be like, yo,
That's Rich pounding down the
what's
door. What's
going on
going
though?
on? What's
What's going
going on
on
here,
though?
Google?
Where are the reviews at? Give us the reviews right now. Please give us a review link. It'd be really easy, and you would get more traffic to your website, and they'll do it. Anything to get anything to drive more traffic.
That's
So yeah,
right.
let's get this thing going. I'm excited to talk to Mike and pick his brain on the shred that he is. So
Yeah,
you ready
yeah.
to
Let's
go?
get them on. I'm ready to go.
Awesome, man. Let's do this. Hey everybody. This is the Drummers I Like podcast, and we are excited to bring you today's guest. His name is Mike Levine. He plays currently with Exotype, The Poison Kitchen, and Mike Gianelli. His sponsors are Love Custom Drums, Sweet Spot Clutches, Meinl Cymbals, Snare Weight, K-Brakes, Remo Heads, and Vader Drumsticks. We are super excited to have a player of your caliber on today, Mike. It's awesome to have you on. How you doing today?
I am absolutely gracious to be able to come in and talk with you guys. Big fan of the podcast, and I've been stoked for this for a long time.
Good deal. Good deal. Good to hear.
Yeah, man, we're stoked to have you. You're a
Absolutely.
killer player. Me and Kevin have just been for days now, just been passing videos back and forth. Damn, you see this? And the fact that you played with one of my favorite you got to play with Glasscloud for a little bit, which I'd like to get into in this conversation here shortly. That's one of my favorite bands. So sick.
Josh is a ridiculous player. Ridiculous.
We were just talking about him. He's the heaviest guitar player of all time as far as what he writes. He writes the heaviest and honestly the heaviest and most palatable heaviest music of all time. Easy on the ears, but like.
But you can listen to it. And I can talk for you about that. There's a reason. There's a way he mixes. He mixes all of his albums and everything he does like a rap song. So when he mixes, he does all his low end just like a rap song would, and he actually A and B's some of his stuff to rap tracks in the decibel range to keep them in that super heavy kind of feel. It's insane.
Wow, he's a scientist.
That's pretty crazy. Never heard anything like that. I like it.
Wow,
that's original.
So in like all Drummers I Like episodes, we would love to learn a little bit more about you. You know, your history in music, how you found drums, how you got to where you are today. You know, we've done a little research ourselves, but you know, nothing better than coming from the man himself. So if you'd love to introduce the users at Drummers I Like to Michael Levine.
So I started off playing drums. My first drum kit was a snare drum. This was in elementary school. Snare drum. I had a kick pedal that I would hit the case of the snare drum. I had two books as toms, and I had a top of a hi-hat that I would lay on my bed, and I had a pair of sticks, and then I took like bungee rope to hold the case so that when I'd hit it, it wouldn't break. And I played that for about a year. In elementary school, I got my first Pearl Export Series kit the end of that year. Forest green, never forget it. I wish I still had it. I went on to high school. I was very fortunate. A lot of high schools, when you get into marching band, they usually put you on pit or cymbals or something like that. This was a brand new high school, so there was no drum line. I was a chartering class, so prior knowledge of having some stick skills, I was center snare, and I had that opportunity to be able to do that. So I played center snare for all of my high school career. Our drum line actually was one of the best in state my junior and senior year, which was very, very sick. A lot of drummers may not know about drum corps, but drum corps is...
You're talking about DCI.
Yeah, DCI. So a lot of drummers don't know about it. If you don't know about it, go check it out. Drum corps are these private organized marching bands in different states where drummers from all over the world come of every kind of caliber of talent to play for these drum lines. And you do these tours for about a year. And there's an age limit, 18 up to, or it might be 16. I think it's 16 up to like 22. And,
yeah, I know. You have to be young. I do remember that.
Yeah, and at my high school, we actually got the drum corps to come through every year. And my senior year after I graduated, I went and I tried out for Spirit of JSU, which was a drum corps. So that was my thing, was snare drum. Like I was just chopping out day in and day out. I learned all of my rudiments, which is nowadays, I guess, is very, very rare. I know.
Yeah, it is getting rarer. It's kind of scary.
Right.
I mean, I don't put nearly as much work as I should into the rudiments, but you're right, it is becoming rare.
I wouldn't have
my life.
But I learned all of my rudiments. I started learning hybrid rudiments and things like that when I graduated. And then I fell more and more in love with drum kit every day. After high school and after college, I was just playing more kit. And I started a local band here in Birmingham. I never really listened to metal, to be honest. The first time I ever listened to metal was Dillinger Escape Plan in high school, and that was mind blowing for me because it was of course Chris Penny was on the track and he was doing things I couldn't understand. He was playing things I couldn't wrap my head around what he was playing. So because of that, that's what made me go, wow, that was awe-inspiring. Like, I want to create a band that's like this. I want to do something like this. So I started my first local band here in Birmingham called DeLeo. And I got together some insane talent. Still to this day, my bass player that played in that band, I consider one of the best bass players I've ever played in my life and will ever play with. He was a mud vein alcoholic. I mean, he could play everything in the vein, and I mean his hand technique. I mean, not a lot of bass players that play with fingers sound as tight as he does. He was just insane.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where my drumming kind of definitely took off. Definitely merging into Bermuda. I was playing in a local band, and we had a show in Mobile, Alabama, and we were playing shows every once in a while. And the show was with King Conquer. They were headlining the show, and there was a bunch of other bands, touring bands were coming through, and we were, just a local band on a bill. Honestly, I didn't even know who King Conquer was. I didn't know any of these bands at all that were on the bill. We just
See,
wanted
being a Florida guy, I know King Conqueror.
yeah.
They play all over Florida here for
Yeah,
years. Great
they're,
band.
they were definitely big in Florida. Well, the show was really fun, and I'll never forget. I was setting up my drum kit, and this guy was watching me set up my kit, and he wasn't saying anything, and he was just kind of sitting in the back, and he watched me play the entire set. He watched me play my entire set, and he comes up to me after the set, he shakes my hand, he goes, "Hey, man, my name's Chris Whited, and I need you." And he goes, "You are an amazing drummer, and I have a band that you need to play with, and they're called Bermuda." And I was like, "All right, dude." I mean, like, and I tried to act like I had heard of them. I'd never heard of them. Like I said, I really wasn't into metal, to be honest. Like, I mean, I had my little metal niche, but I didn't really like get big into it. So I didn't really know who Bermuda was at the time. And I didn't know that was Chris Whited either, and I didn't even know that he was the drummer for the headlining band. you know, I was just like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" We just talked, whatever. Well, next thing you know, he's sending my information off to Michael Fabiano, and Fabiano at the time, he was the main kind of guy. He was the guitar player of Bermuda. They had just dropped Isolationist, and the album was doing really well. They were doing a lot of tours. Michael really wanted me in the band, and he goes, "Okay, well, learn a song and then show." Or he told me, he said, "Learn In Trenches, and we'll go from there." I went back to my Dillinger Escape Plan days, listening to this song, going, "What is this?" I have no clue what's going on. There are tempo changes. There's tempo changes. There are time signature changes. The verse literally is an 11/16 verse, and I didn't know this, but Michael didn't know that he was doing insane riffs. Like, he didn't know. He's not classically trained. So
So he's just playing and feeling it, having no idea kind of what he's doing. He just knows what sounds good to him,
yeah,
and this is what it's turning out as.
to this day, I'll never forget the riff. It was like, and I'm just like, what? I don't even know. Like, I was just like, where do you even start? And that's just the kick pattern. That's not that's not including insane ghost notes, and there's cymbal chokes, and I'm just like, I'm a loss for words. So I spend 24 hours listening to the song, trying to learn it as hard as I can. I get my buddy to film it, Alan Collins. He does all of my professional work here in Birmingham, and he came out with his at the time just a nice little DSLR. We filmed it, sent it to Fabiano, and Fabiano was like, "That's it, you're in. Like, let's do this." Well, at the time, honestly, it took almost probably 4 months, 5 months before I was even considered, because they had other drummer options, and then Trent hadn't left yet, and then they had actually done two tours without me, whereas I'm just sitting in this purgatory, waiting, hoping that I'll finally join a signed band, and
Sure.
That was really rough for me. It was very rough, and it was not a magnifying glass, but it was almost like being able to see into the future. It was like, this is what the industry is like. The industry is all about giving people opportunities, and you just waiting until that opportunity arises. And I literally waited almost probably 6 months before I finally got the call that's like, "All right, you're going to be on tour next November. Trent's gone. This is it. You're in." At that point, I officially joined. And then I toured with them for about 2 years, maybe three, possibly 3 years. And then I ended up doing an album with them, and we did an album with my buddy Joseph McQueen, who just did like he does some insane work out in Echelon Studios in LA. We recorded an album out there. At that point in time, I kind of got that call to do the whole Glasscloud gig, and I was going to jump on that and do all that. So that was kind of the split. So at that point in time, I ended up meeting up with Josh Travis and talking to him about doing the tours. And this at the time, it was kind of funny because if you can imagine, while this is all going on, Era had constantly kind of building up hype, and me and Alex kind of have this thing where it's like he was always doing better than me. So I always wanted to like trying to catch up. You know, like I was always playing catch up with him as far as like the tours and stuff like that were going on. Well, the tour that Glasscloud wanted me on, Era was like support for Glasscloud, and I was like die laughing. I was like, finally, this I get to finally stick it to Alex. But it was bittersweet because the guys just really didn't have their act together the way that I was expecting them to it.
Okay.
And the band just really wasn't what I thought they were. And Josh was everything that he wanted to be, but Josh had kind of signed out mentally. I feel like at that point in time, he was done being the band like leader. He wanted to just be kind of a pay for hire, which is exactly what he's doing with Amur now. You know, he is a pay for hire for Amur, and that's exactly what he wants to be, and that's what he wants to do. You know, he doesn't want to be the guy that deals with anything other than just kicking ass on his guitar, and that showed in the span of the time that I hung out with the dudes, and I just wasn't feeling it. So at that point, I backed out. He actually wanted Mike Gianelli too to play second guitar, and Mike Gianelli backed out as well. And at that point, we were working together, me, Mike Gianelli. We were doing a bunch of stuff, just solo stuff. And I went back to Bermuda, and I'm talking to Corey, and we're about to put this new album out, and he needs a graphic art designer. So that's when I met Steven and Rob from Exotype, and I was in contact with them about doing the art design for our album. And at that point in time, me and Corey kind of had a huge falling out because he just kept wanting to tour. He didn't care about putting new music out. He just wanted to tour. That's what he does. But in this industry, there's a fine balance between selling record sales and touring on something. Bands can't just go out and expect that their last album cycle was 3 years ago and they don't even put out a music video or anything like that for their tours to be successful. It doesn't happen. You have to tour on something.
Seems unrealistic.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's completely unrealistic. And we had been touring for like 3 years on the same album with no music video or anything. And it was just a very unsuccessful concept that Corey had in his mind. And at that point in time, I had hit up Rob and Steven, was like, hey, do you guys know of any bands that need a drummer? And they're like, well, we actually just we're about to fire our drummer because he's just not performing the way that he wants to. And I learned the material in one day. I learned 4 songs in one day, filmed all 4 songs that night, sent them to Rob, and they were like, all right, when can we have you down here in Orlando? I was like, all right, nice. That's sick. And the rest is pretty. Yeah.
Are you in Orlando now?
No, I'm currently in Birmingham still. I travel down there whenever there is a tour, but I built so many great contacts here in Birmingham that I feel like it would be a hindrance for me to move somewhere else because I have ultimately in the industry it's who you know, and in my case, it's not just who you know, it's who lives right by me. And I have contacts that are literally right next door. I mean, I'm hanging out with Josh Gilbert yesterday, and he's, you know, it's surreal to me to think that this is the guy that played in As I Lay Dying. This is the guy that is playing in Woven War that's about to go out with Unearth. You know, like, it's surreal to me sometimes, but we're all just people, you know, and he lives here, and we had a little studio here in Birmingham and Avondale, and did some really sick stuff. So the sky's the limit for that.
Oh yeah, that's a good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm actually from the town that Kevin's in right now, and I moved out to Los Angeles maybe a year and a half ago, and it's awesome. The connections are great. I'm near everybody. I'm near everything. The industry is right here, but I just felt even in our small little town of Vero Beach, the amount of people I knew that were handy and nearby, it was just there. There was just more of it, and I can really attest to that now because 2/3 of the drummers I like team are all in Florida, all in that little area right now.
It's crazy because I've always said nowadays it's not about who you know, it's how well you know them.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, at the time when I first joined Exotype, we were talking to managers of Kiss. We were talking to managers of like some of these insane managers. Like, no way in hell do these guys want to manage our band and help us out. But we were in phone calls with them, but they ended up never working out because of that exact same thing. Just because we knew them, just because we had a phone call with them, didn't mean that we were going to hook them. You have to create you can't just have a good contact. You have to create a relationship with that person that is both you help each other out. In the end, that's the biggest way to get in this industry is to not just say, "Hey, I want to play for you." It's, "Hey, look at what I can do for you." Look at this. This is what I can do to help aid you, and that's how you make it in this industry.
And bringing more to the table than just playing. I mean, a handful of times maybe just playing, is all somebody needs for a certain type of project. But the more you can bring to the table, the more hireable you're going to be.
Drummers nowadays really need to learn how to use backing tracks. They need to really learn how to because this is where this industry is going. Everything is technological. Drummer's best friend is his MacBook, and not a lot of drummers know that, and not a lot of drummers have the skill set to sit down and have to learn about backing tracks and how to actually create a really good live system, because that's on you. That shouldn't be on your guitar player or anybody else. That should be on you, because 90% of the time the drummer is with the click and everyone else is using that, unless you're in the really professional stage. And if you're the guy who has the click, then you need to know everything about that. And that's something I bring to the table. In the bands that I play with, I'm like, I have my own rack, my rig that is legit, and it'll suffice for anything that anybody needs.
I learned that lesson from Martone. We actually brought him on the podcast earlier in the beginning days of the podcast, like 3 or 4, something like that. But he was one of the like 7 or 8 years ago when he started touring with Versa. That was the first time I had seen a drummer with his own system, and that he was completely working on his own. That was all in his drum bag. And I was like, wait, you're a guitar player, you're a mixing guy. Like, where's your sound guy? He's like, no, dude, I do this. Me.
Yeah.
I'm running this. This is how it works. And
yeah.
I remember the sheer terror because I was younger in the game. I was like, oh shit, I got to learn a lot more than just playing drums.
Right.
It's not too bad. I'll never forget my at the time we were on tour with Abiotic in Bermuda, and I had met Aaron he's now playing with Rings of Saturn, and Aaron is literally like my brother, like legit brother. Like we constantly are hanging out, chilling, talking, whatever. And I met him on that tour, and he had this little like danky, like it was like a little like 4-channel little piece of crap with like his iPod in it. I was like, what is this? What are you doing with this, dude? Like, come here, let me show you. This is how the daddy does it. And I showed him like the rig and everything. So, oh shit, I want to learn. And now of course it's completely backwards. He's got Rings of Saturn. He's living the dream right now, loving that. And he's shout out to Aaron. He's my boy.
That's
for
what's
life.
up.
That's really cool, man. So you've really worked your way up the ladder, and you've done it in a very humble way. So kudos to you, and to our listeners out there. take that lesson strongly, because it's really important that you understand a lot more than just playing drums. You have to understand, the business, the craft, what it takes to play live. There's so many different elements that, you don't want to get that gig and then show up first day to practice, and maybe they were expecting you to have that metronome. Maybe there isn't a sound coordinator, there isn't a show production manager. It's not that easy for everybody, especially in this industry where these guys are working really hard to make it happen. It's not. These aren't. This. It's not. Touring isn't easy as people think. So if you don't got that metronome rig yet, get it set up, and if you don't, hit up Mike. He'll help you out.
My best advice to anyone that's trying to get in the industry is one word, and that's professionalism. If everything you do is based around professionalism, then you're going to succeed no matter what. Keeping your professionalism, keeping it cool when you're talking to people and having conversations with people about the industry and about your playing and about all these things. Emails, those are really, keeping your emails very professional, very clean and business oriented. That is how you succeed, not by just being like, hey, I want to play with you, or hey, I want to be endorsed by your stuff, thanks, bye, check my videos out.
You're right.
I'm a really good player. Sign me.
I love that you're bringing this up, because definitely I don't want to say this generation in general, but the millennial generation, this just kids. I'm 28, Kevin. I know you're in your early 30s. I'm not sure exactly how old you are, Mike, but a lot of people in their early 20s, don't understand this concept as much, the professionalism side, and I'm so used to seeing those one-off messages, the lack of grammar, the no attention to detail. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and before we lose and become like 1984 where no one's speaking correctly ever, it's really important that professionalism standards taken really importantly, especially if you want to break into this industry. So great point, Mike. Seriously, great point.
Absolutely.
So moving on, I really want to talk about your playing. I mean, I'm just kind of sitting here itching on getting into some of these things that you do to build your strength, the training that you do, the kit setup. I'm kind of just really curious on your whole outlook on the way you set your drum setup in coordination with how you play what you're playing, and the training you do around that.
So when I first started, I, as everyone else, I had my drum, my rack toms horizontally like a wall, and I had cymbals upside down. And then I went into my phase where I wanted to have as many drums as I could have, where I had 3 kick drums and 9 rack toms and this and that. And then I went to the minimal stage. I went to a 1 floor tom, 1 rack tom stage. And then when I did my first touring gig with Bermuda, that's when everything changed. When I had to load in and load out my own damn gear every single day, it was all right. This is God. I gotta cut this back. So then it became. I actually played a couple tours with just 1 floor tom, which big. Of course, shout out to Matt Halpern, because he I feel like he invented that. And
really
it's sad,
that's for sure.
it's sad that he doesn't do it anymore. And I had a conversation with him when I left Glasscloud. I was talking with him. They were playing a show in Birmingham, and I was talking with him about that. And he kind of brought up the whole like adding on toms, and he was just like, we were talking about that whole concept of just like, the less that you have, the more you have to think about what you're playing, about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that spoke wonders for me. I was like, wow, that's really true too. I mean, the less you put in front of your face, the more you have to think, how can I make this work? How can I make this do this, do that, do this? And it's a really, really cool concept. So I went to a single floor tom for a couple tours with Bermuda. And then when I joined Exotype, I started shifting out of like playing really technical metal and more of a performance. And performance-wise, I felt like I had this like cool concept in my head where I was like, how awesome would it be if I saw a drummer playing on stage and I saw his entire body? So I didn't see drums, I didn't see toms all over the place, I didn't see cymbals, I saw him. And then not only would I see that person, but I would also see that person put on a persona and put on a show. because no one wants to see just a bunch of drums and cymbals flopping all over the place. They want to see you. They want to see what you're doing. So I had this really cool idea. I was like, okay, well, what if I start putting all of my drums and everything on the right and left of me and keep everything in front of me completely empty to where you see just me. And I started out with Exotype, and I started doing, I still wanted, the availability to play different fills, so I kept a rack tom, but I was like, instead of putting it in front of me, I'm going to put it right next to me on my right side like a floor tom. I did that, and then I had my other floor tom and then my other floor tom on the left of me. And I put all my cymbals where my hands would be, not in front of me, but where my hands are naturally. Like when you put your hands down naturally, I was like, okay, this is how I kind of want to do this. And I developed that way of playing, which took a long time. It wasn't something that just happened overnight, and it wasn't something that was very just easy to come by. Playing everything flat on the floor was very, very irregular because you have to move more to play something. But then I'm thinking in my head, well, I'm having to move more, but that's cool. Like it's a showmanship. So if I want to play a field that goes I have to go from the right side, and then I have to switch over to the left side, and then or learn how to do a crossover and
Right. Or mess with alternate sticking patterns, to be able to get it out,
But that'll look cool from the audience perspective. Like that was my whole concept, is I want to be able to look abnormal to a normal drummer. And that was like my whole idea and concept, which I'm still anywhere near I want to be at all playing wise with this setup. But I hope one day I'll definitely be able to kind of master the fluidity of being able to play a kit like that. And I know it'll happen one day. One day it'll click for sure, but it just takes a lot of practice for sure.
Absolutely. What are some of your practice methods that you're using to kind of make yourself more comfortable with playing that kit?
So a lot of drummers get caught up in a bunch of different practice practice themes and stuff like that. I guess a lot of drummers get caught up when they sit down. They're like, well, I don't want to practice, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. And whenever I say that, I think to myself, go back to the basics. So when I go back to the basics, I think back to drum corps, and I think about marching band. What's the first thing that we do was just 8 on a hand. That's it.
Oh, 8 on a hand. I do that, and I'll do that like as a warm up. See, I wasn't actually on the drum line. I was actually a horn player through high school, but we used to watch the drum line, they'd warm up right next to us, and they would do 8 on a hand, and I do it the same way, but I do it with my kicks too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I still to this day try to drive home to drummers, that instead of worrying about triple beats and double beats and flam chachadas and all this stuff, worry about the stroke, because that's it. That's all. Once you've mastered bop perfectly, you can do anything. Everything else is just a tree from there. So learning 8 on a hand and being able to master being heights and holding the stick and just having that natural fluidity, that will make everything else easier. So anytime I do sit on the kit and I do a warm up, it's really 8 on a hand. Moving around the kit, different ways of doing 8 on a hand. If I want to work on my diddles, I'll do double beat exercises and stuff like that. But honestly, how I practice more is nowadays, because when I was younger, it was literally 8 on a hand for an hour, double beat for an hour, triple beat for an hour, then rudiments for an hour. It was insane about it. And nowadays, I don't really practice as much as I should. Instead, my practice method is learning songs for me now. So I'll pick a song that I don't know, and I will go work out, and I will listen to it while I'm working out for an hour or 2 hours, and I'll really when I'm listening to a song, when I'm wanting to learn a song, what I do is I pretend I'm the drummer. So I visualize myself sitting down playing what the drummer is playing. And as drummers, it's all beat recognition, pattern recognition. So when I come to an intro or a verse, I'm listening, all right, what is the pattern? Where are the stops? And then I break that down into, okay, what is the kick doing? And that's rule number one. Anytime I'm learning a song or anything, it's all about what is the kick doing first. So once you kind of like subdivide that out and learn just one thing, then you add in the next thing, then the next thing, and the next thing, and then everything should be, flawless. And that's really where my practice method is now. It's just learning new material and trying to learn it as quickly as possible. That's something that I want to really, for myself, I really want to be able to be the kind of drummer that can just go, all right, you need a gig next week, I got you, and be able to learn 5-6 songs in a day.
Sure.
Which is all based on pattern recognition,
Yeah. Now, when you're doing when you are learning a song like that, do you ever chart anything out? Because I'm sure you with your time that you read as well.
So
But do you ever chart anything out like that when you're trying to learn a difficult part or anything?
I do read and write. I haven't read and written probably in probably about 6 years.
Okay.
I can remember being in math class writing out, insane drumline stuff, and I don't do that anymore. Right now, when I get to a really difficult part, what I'll do is I'll put it in Logic, and I will just repeat that section, and I will just let it loop. I was learning some of Drusiv Stalin's stuff recently. He wanted me to do some drums on his newest album, and there were some parts in these songs I was learning that were insanely hard, and that's exactly what I did. I would just loop it. Now, when it comes to writing, I will do a form of writing out. It's not necessarily writing out every single beat, but what I do is I'll write just tick marks, and I'll tick mark the pattern. So if it's like bam 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 bam, I'll just go 1 1 2 1 1 2 1 1 2 1 1 2, and that way it's a faster way. I could write out one E and or however it is, whatever the pattern is, but I feel like it's just a faster way of just writing. I just try to knock it out as quickly. I guess what I'm trying to get at is I feel like it should be very when it comes to learning things, I want to learn it as quickly as possible.
Sure.
And if counting the beats, I feel like counting a beat is going to take a lot more time than just going tup to tup tup to tup tup to tup to tup to tup tup.
No, I know what you mean.
So
Sure.
What I wanted to lead on to next was just kind of how you play like a monster. So I've always been curious to know what it takes to keep up with that kind of playing when you're on a 2-month, 3-month tour.
It's visual. So when I first started playing, I was hitting the hell out of my drums because that was something that one of my instructors always taught me is when you play a drum, don't hit the head, hit the floor.
Yeah, play through the drum.
Play through the drum. And I will never feather tap. So I always like smash my drums, which is horrible because I break everything constantly. And what would happen in these tours is, just like you said, 2 or 3 days in, when I first started kind of playing like that, I almost couldn't do it. It was very, very hard. Then I went back and I thought about some techniques that I used to do. So there's different kinds of strokes. You have your legato stroke, which is almost playing off the drum, and it's more of a visual style stroke. And then, of course, your staccato is straight down, and then you stop. And then there's a marcato, and the marcato stroke is right in between. And a marcato stroke means you hit it, and you hit the drum hard, but you don't hit it insanely hard. It's like a power level 50, but you still use that legato look to it to make it look like it's a lot harder than what it is. And I do that in my playing, especially on my cymbals. Just to save my cymbals, it looks like I'm playing really hard. And a lot of that is just my body motion that's moving like that. I'm not actually destroying these cymbals or drums. And when that finally clicked, that made touring just 10 times easier for me. And then keeping a healthy lifestyle. I'm a very fitness-oriented person. I work out every day, and when I'm on tour, I'm constantly running. I have my Strava app on. I try to run, a mile a day, and keeping my physical self very, very high is very key to all drummers, because as a guitar player, It's just your hands. It's just it's just your picking hand. For drummers, it's an entire body experience. And if you're not physically fit to do that, you're gonna hurt. Definitely gonna hurt.
Yeah, that's some interesting knowledge. You dropped some new stuff for me. It's definitely a lot for me to think about because I'm consistently sitting on my kit thinking about how hard I'm hitting, how much effort I'm putting into my strokes, and can I save myself the stress if I approach it differently? And I think I'm on to what you're doing a little bit, but now I definitely have a little bit more homework to look into. So that's some great knowledge. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of listeners that can take that away too, and even kind of dabbling in on that from my own take, kind of from what you were saying, especially with the strokes and looking like playing physically. I play hardcore kind of metal, kind of a beat down kind of band as you call it, and here lately, and especially as I get older too, it's harder and harder to play really physical. And of course, my bandmates like to play on like 11 plus 2, so. Sometimes you feel like you have to pound to hear, and over the last probably 3 months, I've been just making myself stay more composed behind the kit, and it's done great for my stamina and for our show performances and everything. So,
to feed off of that, I used to do that a lot. I used to play harder and louder just to hear myself, and then I figured out microphones.
Yeah, right.
And I do this now in my rig. All my outs, all of my mics go into my my interface, so I hear myself, and that is something that I've always done to help correct that issue, so that at any time I can hear, I'll know exactly what I'm doing. And also, I want to definitely say to your drummers, if you ever really, really, really want to get amazingly better, I'm talking 10 times better, all you need is a kick drum mic and a interface, a small little interface. You can get a kick drum mic for about $100, probably 50 for used. Get a cheap little interface. You can get like there's an M box that's like $100, and then that has 2 inputs. And then you need a computer or something that's gonna process that information, which nowadays everyone should have one. And I suggest you to go home and get that, and just listen to yourself playing with your kick drum as you're playing. It is completely different, because when you're playing really hard and heavy, you don't hear your kick drum, you feel it. But you can't hear it because it's nowhere near you. But as soon as you put a microphone in there and you're listening to it, you see your flaws. I am horribly flawed. And when I did that for the first time, I was like, holy crap, like I sound horrible. And I was able to change overnight. Literally the next day, when I kept going into it and really focusing on what I'm playing, it made everything better. Because if you think about it, when you're playing with your hands, everything is in front of you. Your snare drum is in front of you. Your cymbals are in front of you. You can hear exactly what you're playing. But as far as the kick drum, it's just a feel, not necessarily an audible sound that you can hear because it's in front of you. So that's something that I did that really helped me out a ton, to be like, wow, I need to tone it back.
What's really funny is we podcasted with Travis Orban recently, if you might have heard the show, but he mentioned something similar as far as cleaning up your double bass drumming. You know what I mean? He said, and he said it, even as far as record yourself. You know what I mean? Like, just go ahead and play and record it, and then go back and listen to it. And he said that kind of woke him up on cleaning up his double bass. And of course, now you listen to it, and it sounds like it's done by a machine. But yeah, so it worked for him. So that's pretty cool that you brought up that same kind of point, because it's really doing the same thing. It's isolating that and really kind of digging into it to really be able to hear what's going on.
And I would also suggest drummers that, the recording end of drumming is very, very insane. Like, that's a whole nother book. That's a whole nother, 6 books to try to learn. But to dabble in it, to just dabble, to get the information, to get the products you need. It doesn't cost a ton to just do a very simple recording, but just to dabble in it to learn certain things in that industry is very important too. Because as a drummer, as a musician, I always feel like there's always 3 things that we love to do. There's the touring aspect, where you're playing and you're playing in front of people, and then there's the recording aspect, where you're recording and you're actually in a completely different realm. and then you have the video aspect where you're doing, shoots or video shoots and things like that, where it's more of a visual thing and not even an audio thing. But as far as the recording aspect, when a drummer goes into a recording studio, I suggest drummers to always kind of dabble in it, just so that just to have that simple knowledge of, okay, well, I know that the microphone needs to look, I know that the microphone needs to be in this position. Or I know that I don't need to overplay because the microphone is there to record you, not to, you don't want to overplay when you're recording. Another little thing in studios is bringing the cymbals higher up, moving your cymbals higher up so that the wash isn't going through your toms. And knowing these little things will definitely not only help you out, but it'll help your engineer out, it'll help your mix out, and just dabbling in the recording aspect. It sucks nowadays because of the electronic drum craze, where anyone can be a drummer, and I hate that. And honestly, I feel like that a lot of that has happened because we as drummers, we are lazy.
You kind of. I mean, I knew where you were going with that.
Yes.
I mean, I guess I kind of play devil's advocate here a bit, because what I do enjoy about electronic drums is I enjoy them from kind of a practice aspect. You know, the fact that I can keep them in the living room, and when my daughter's in bed, I can sit there and I can throw on headphones and play, and she would know the difference.
I was meaning more of just being able to write drums out on.
Oh yeah.
Electronic drums are sick. I used to have a TD 15KV Roland kit. So I don't mean like actual electronic drums. I mean like programming drums. That part, I feel like it sucks because in this industry, anyone can be a drummer, because we kind of drop the ball as drummers in the recording aspect. How many drummers do you know? I mean, a very handful record themselves. It's very rare. But how many guitar players record themselves?
Almost everyone I know.
And they all record drums too. They're doing our damn job. It sucks. But that's why I always, from the day I was 18 to now, when I really started playing drums, I always vowed never, ever to be on an album and it not be me. So if you ever listen to anything that I have my name on, it's me playing drums recorded. I'll never be on anything fake.
Kind of touching on that, and like I said, it's not really playing devil's advocate too much on this, but when we needed to go into the studio, we were going to do a single. Money was kind of tight amongst all of us, so we had to kind of figure out exactly how we were going to do this and be able to afford everything. And I have a set of V drums that I keep in my house, obviously. And when we went to do the single, what I would do is I would play the drums on the V kit, and then from there, that would be the programmed drums, just so we didn't have to track in the studio and eat up that time.
All that time.
So, you know what I mean? Because it is a lot of time that you do, between micing and tracking it out, first. It eats up a lot of studio time.
What's crazy is nowadays, back in the day when that first started happening, well, anytime a band would record an album, you would record drums first. That was the way it went. Nowadays, in the past year, now drummers or the band is coming in with programmed drums, and guess what comes last? Real drums. And that's how professional albums are being recorded now. It's you have your fake drum so everyone can kind of learn it, and then it can be in the mix, and then the very last thing that happens is the drummer comes in and does his parts, which I adopt that way of recording, because that way I can hear what the vocalist is doing, and literally drums drive the song. Drums create the emotion of the song. So if the vocalist is doing something that needs to be accented a certain way, simply going from a hi-hat to a crash can be literally night and day on a verse or on a chorus. And having that opportunity to be able to do that last is amazing. And that's what drummers are really trying to do nowadays.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Makes a lot of sense too, because not only in the financial side and you being able to prep with the vocalist, but it really gives you a lot of time to soak in the music. You're watching everyone record. You're watching everyone, change stuff on the spot, improv, all that kind of stuff. I feel like that gives the drummer a lot more opportunity, because, at the end of the day, I truly feel the drummer plays the biggest and most, need be role in the band. Without you, there's nothing. You can coast without a bass player. You can coast with that, but even with electronic drums, you can't go play live with electronic drums. It's not going to work.
It doesn't sound right.
Nope, not at all, not at all. And
the least amount of band members that you can have is a vocalist and a drummer, and that's already been done before. But you can't do anything less than that.
And Sky Terraplane was thus born.
There you go.
That's funny.
So
That's funny.
what I'm kind of curious to get into, because we're starting near towards the better half of the show. I'm curious about this information that I was able to come up with you on the drum off stuff. That you've been able to win every single drum off regional for the last few years.
Yeah, so I've been doing them. I mean, it's Alabama, so
So what? Come on.
I mean, it's Alabama, but I mean, at the same time, yeah, I did the drum. I started doing the drum off. I was gonna do it this year, but with these tours coming up, I had to not do it. But I started doing them. The first time that I won, I was 22, and I went on to the regionals, and it was amazing for me, dude. Like it was mind blowing to be in that kind of environment, and to be on that level with these drummers that I looked up to, and this is something that I really want to hit home to your viewers and your listeners is something that I learned early on was these drummers that I idolized as being the most amazing drummers in the world. Some of these people that I felt that I looked up to, I've gotten a chance to play with them. I've gotten a chance to chop out with them, which is a very rare opportunity for people, and I really appreciate that I have gotten to do that. But one thing that I've noticed is they're not always that great, and there's always flaws, because when you see somebody play, you think that they're, when you see them playing, you think they're absolutely, amazing. There's always flaws. We're human,
Right.
and that hit home for me because when I would go on these solos and stuff like that, I would watch these drummers and I'll be like, dude, that was whack. Like, it's not like that was whack. And I can't believe that not necessarily that I looked up to you, but that I felt like I would never be in the same realm as you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But everyone has that opportunity. Every single person has the opportunity to be right neck and neck with the top drummers, Aaron Spears, Tony Rocha Jr. Doesn't matter. Call them all out. You have the availability and the talent to be able to be right next to that drummer, simply because of that. Because we're human. All it takes is just time and practice, and that's what I did.
I was just going to say, to unpack that I preach that all the time. I don't really like the word talent because I feel like we all have an innate talent to play drum that's kind of built into us, without us ever doing anything. All you need is to devote the time. If you have enough drive and discipline, then you can do anything you want to do on the drums. It's just up to you how far you really want to take it.
Passion, in like Webster's dictionary, is they say that passion is a innate emotion that drives an action. And if you have passion enough to play drums, then you're going to have that innate passion to want to do an action, to want to be there. If you have enough passion to be as good as Tony Royster, then you will, plain and simple. And the same thing happened with the drum off. I won a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, and I went on to the regionals. But at some point, you get to a point where you're going up against some heavy hitters, some guys that are they've devoted more time to that than I did, and that's kind of where I've kind of always dropped off. But I love soloing. I love learning different tricks. I've got a lot of little tricks from drum corps that I've always kind of like, you have so much time on the field, hours literally baking in the sun. You have nothing left to do but figure out how to flip the stick upside down and turn it into a bong or something.
Oh, that's fabulous.
I've done it before, actually.
I was just going to say, there's drummers out there be like, I've done that.
I've done that, yeah, pretty much.
That's funny. That's great.
That's awesome.
I mean, this, all this stuff is, I hope all you drummers out there listening to this podcast today have got their legal pad or their computer in front of them, and they're taking notes, because there is all sorts of good, valuable information here that Mike is sharing with us. So if you're not, shame on you, because you should be noting down all this stuff. It's
Yeah, you're a
so
boss,
if,
Mike. You're a boss.
but listen, if you're not jogging it down, the only thing that I want to hit home is passion. That's it, dude. Like if you have the passion to do it, you can do it, and that's it. There's nothing stopping you. Literally nothing stopping you.
very true. And the other nice thing too is this is a podcast, so it'll be on the internet forever. So if anybody wants to go back and listen to it, it'll be there.
Cool.
Awesome. So, getting on to my next little piece of my next question I have for you actually is, what's going on with Exotype and what's going on with the Poison in the Kitchen? What's the future? What's the future look like for you?
All right, so Exotype, we put out some new singles. We put out 3 singles. We had a falling out with Rise Records. They just weren't. It was just not cohesive for the band, and we ended up dropping where they dropped us due to album sales, things like that. So right now we are in talks with a couple of different labels. So we have these singles out just to kind of get a taste of what's to come. We want to go heavier. Rob has been writing some very heavy things. He just got an 8-string from ESP. And he's been writing some very heavy riffs. Kind of go back to our roots, because Rob actually used to play in a band called Catalepsy. And they were...
Oh, I know. Catalepsy. Yeah, absolutely.
We're from that area.
Yeah. He started Catalepsy, and so we're kind of going back to our roots in that heavier aspect. So we have that going on right now. I don't have any tours with Exotype booked yet. We're still in the kind of process of picking up the pieces that have been dropped. As far as Poison Kitchen, so that's Ian Eubanks' project, which he's had for years. He's had literally for probably 10 years. It's just a solo project. We did a couple of shows, and we are currently writing some new material as well to get out there. We're waiting on his album to finally get finished. Josh is actually finished mixing and mastering that.
Sweet.
They're about to go out with Unearth, I think, at the end of the month. And so by that time, he should definitely have it finished out for us. As far as that goes, as far as touring goes, I'm going to be filling in for It Lives, It Breathes in December. They are direct support for Ice Nine Kills, and it's going to be some sick tour dates. I think a lot of Canada dates, which I'm excited about. And those dudes are awesome. They're really they're more flash. They're more of that like imagery than it is than most bands. They put on all kind of personas, which is really cool. And I'm stoked on this. There's a band called Dark Complex, and they're on the bill that month, and they just put out a new song that is insane. They're so good, dude. You need to go check them out. They're so good. And I don't know what it is. It's just some really sick songwriting. But besides that, I'm always in talks with a couple guys I'm open right now as far as like fill-ins. Besides that December date, I was this close to being able to play with Bury Your Dead, which I was.
Oh, no way.
Aaron Bubble, he's the bass player for Bury Your Dead, the bass player for All That Remains. He is managing Exotype right now, and I've kind of built a really cool relationship with him. And he hit me up like a couple weeks ago and was like, "Hey, so would you want to play for Bury Dead one show, because their drummer couldn't make it or something?" And I was like,
now Mark's playing with them, isn't he?
Yeah, Mark's still playing, and this was just a fill-in show.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
Mark does some DJing thing or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
I was this close to being able to play with that, but the guys ended up going with the dude that had already filled in for him. So, but you never know. You never know what the horizon may bring. So that's what I always say.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's very cool. Well, any of those tour dates you got coming to Florida or LA?
I was about to ask.
I'm 100% sure one of them will definitely go to LA. Actually, I know because Palisades, I think, they're actually going out with Palisades, and they'll be there. I'm looking at the dates right now. No, it's looking like mostly Northeast, New York, and Canada. But they will be doing the Palisades tour. I know is going through there because it's them, Palisades, Dark Complex, and Blind Witch, and they do both LA and Florida on those dates.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
Cool. So I will definitely make a note to reach out, man. Come out and we'll do some drum cams for sure.
yeah. Anytime I'm out in California, Aaron treats me. We always go to his place and do like a little drum. We call it the shred shop.
Oh, that's so awesome. You got to bring me.
We just
I'm tagging.
and anytime he's here in Birmingham, I take him to the bars and get him shredded in a different way.
Nice.
Oh.
Not wrong with that.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Very cool. Well, Richard, I think it's about time for our final segment of the show, our famous rapid singles lightning round.
Sounds good.
So as you would, we were talking to Mike earlier, and he said he has listened to the show, so I'm sure he's gotten to hear a few of these. So he's not as stressed as some of our guests who were kind of like, oh no, you're putting me on the spot here. So on that, I think we'll just go ahead and dive into it here. You ready, Mike?
I'm ready.
All right. So question number 1: what was holding you back from becoming a successful drummer? So just that one thing you really had to overcome to really bring it to that next level.
Speed.
Break
Blasting.
down speed.
Blasting.
There we go. See that? I like it. Quick answer and something we all should work on. Now kind of unpacking that a bit, do you kind of go real slow and just kind of build?
It's all about 8 on a hand
There
at
we go.
160 and then 5 beats per minute every time you do that for 10 minutes, all the way up to 200.
There you go. You get it together, guys. And if you don't know what 8 on a hand is, get on it. So, getting into question number 2. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received in relation to drumming in your drumming career?
Definitely has to be the best advice I've ever given is never giving up, never putting your sticks down. Always keep trying. Always push through.
That's good. That's important. Super important. All right. I think we'll move on here. Question number 3. What's a personal habit that contributes to your success as a drummer?
Time management.
Great one. Great answer. So important. And that goes for somebody that's, at your level where you're working out, touring and sessions, and it even goes back all the way down to as simple as, being a working guy and trying to figure out, between juggling all your everyday stuff when you're going to carve that time out for drumming.
Exactly.
Perfect. Man, you were just knocking these out. It's great.
Right.
It's exactly how this was intended, right? Number 4, share a resource or tool that helps you survive as a drummer.
I'm going to have to plug True Tuner.
Ah.
Yeah, I cannot tune drums worth crap. Just don't have an ear for it. And every time I try, I've done every kind of tutorial there is, and they just always suck. But True Tuner has always been there to help me get through that. It's a perfect way to, no matter what, my drum's going to be in tune if I just follow exactly the WYSIWYG way of doing it.
Okay. I like it.
I've been looking to hear about that more too. From a real user.
They're sick.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Question number 5. And we're still kind of working the bugs out of this question, but let's see what you might have for us. Recommend just one book. If you could recommend just one book related to drumming, what would it be and why?
So, what was the orange book? I always forget what it's called. Percussion. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. It's like it's the orange book, and every drummer knows it from back in the day. It was like the book that like had everything. Literally page 1 was 8 on a hand. And I forgot what it's called, but definitely honestly, I would say that any book that starts off with a very basic knowledge of drumming, as dealing with the hands and technique and grip and things like that. Any book that starts like that is going to be killer. Because then that means
One book that I can kind of give our listeners that I know does exactly what you're saying is like the Alfred drum method book, like number one.
Exactly.
That'd be a great one too to do that with. And there was another one I remember I had when I was, I mean, we're talking like when I got my first drum lessons at like 9 or 10 years old. This guy gave it. It was like Haskell. It was written by a guy named Haskell, I think. And like the top half was orange, but I mean it had like pictures of the guys like with like a marching snare drum on, like showing you the traditional grip, and it looked like it was like straight out of like the 1930s.
That's the best, dude. Those are the best for sure.
That's right. That's right.
You know what's crazy? It's a little fun fact. Do you know where traditional grip came from?
Well, with now correct me if I'm wrong, but it's from the original marching snare drums that were slung to one side because it was easier for the left hand to hold the stick that way because of the position of the drum, correct?
Exactly, 100%, which is asinine to think, why we do it on a flat surface. It's traditional, I guess.
You know, just to unpack a quick thing with that, I saw a thing where it was like somebody put together this Buddy Rich. It was a Buddy Rich clip of talking about why you shouldn't play match grip. And he's like, okay, you saw it. I just love how he's like, yeah, I can play this in traditional grip, but then when I go to try and play it in match grip, and he plays like the exact same riff, it's like you just did it perfectly.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that is I can play traditional grip very well.
Sure.
I can't do certain things now that I could do in the past. Definitely some chops have lost from it. But some of the techniques, like learning how to do it, I still use to my hands to this day. One of the things that one of my instructors said is before you start playing drums, like if you're a very beginner, is act like you're about to shake my hand. So the way that your hand is, like you just put your hand out, the way that your hand is, the way it looks, the angle, the position, everything, that's exactly how you should play. Now you just put the stick in, and then of course your fulcrum and everything just kind of wraps behind that. But that was a concept that I still use to this day, is act like you're about to shake my hand, because that's that's natural. And in my drumming and in my playing, I want everything for me to be as natural as possible.
It's funny you mention that, because if you do that, you end up with thumbs up.
Exactly.
You end up with your thumbs dead straight up.
More of a French grip. It's almost like
exactly. Oh, are we there?
Yeah, I think we lost audio for a minute. Mike, you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go. We must have just dropped for a second.
That's funny, is I'm kind of playing around with grips lately. From all the frickin' computer work, and I do SEO and web development at my job, and I've been noticing my hands are hurting, and just holding sticks aren't as easy as they would. So I've been experimenting, going from the traditional way, or not traditional, but the I guess the German or American grip more to the French style of holding lately. And I'm noticing, as much as my left hand doesn't like to do it because it's found this really comfortable way of playing ghosts and grooving on the snare, my right hand is like loving playing the ride in a French way. And
same way blasting, my hand is always thumbs up, perfect French grip, but my left hand won't do that. It has to be German grip. It's weird.
So I'm not alone here.
I have the same issue too, and it's like I feel like I shouldn't be doing this, because I shouldn't have two different hand techniques going on. It just doesn't seem like I should be doing this.
Listen, anytime that I ever feel like that, I go, screw it. I'm me, and I'm gonna, as long as I'm able to do what I'm doing, doesn't matter.
Right? Hey, what we make is art, and nobody tells artists that they're not doing it right?
Exactly.
It's subjective at the end of the day.
That's right. Well, we've gotten a little off topic, but now, of course, it is time for the infamous question number 6 in our rapid single segment. So now we're ready to unpack the detailed question. Are you ready here, Mike?
Ready.
All right. So imagine you wake up tomorrow in a world exactly like ours is now, and you still have all the same drumming knowledge and skills that you have, but you don't know anybody. It's like everything's fresh. You're in your town. You've got your room and board. You got your place, but you have no connections. All you have is like $500 cash, a smartphone, and a drum set, a small enough drum set that you can get it around and gig with it. What would you do first?
The first thing I would do, if I didn't know it, like if you just dropped me in a random city, is I would use that money to buy. And you're saying internet is a thing still.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a smartphone, so
So the
you got
first,
access to that.
the first thing I would do is buy a GoPro, and I would film myself playing, and I would upload that on YouTube. And at the same time, I would go to shows. I would find local shows, any kind of show that was in my area, in my town, and I would not just go to it. People get scared about shows. People think when they go to shows that like the people on stage are like gods. Some people feel
No,
that
you're
way.
right. You're absolutely right. That is a common misconception.
We are totally normal people. And you know what I would do is I would hang out by the vans. I would hang out by where the bands are, where they're hanging out, and I would just start a conversation with them. Um, that's how I got to where I am, is just by talking to people and creating that relationship. And when a show comes through, I do the same thing. I don't go in the front. I go in the back. I look where the
Sure.
bands are. I find out where the bands are, where they're hanging out, and I talk to them. And I just start a conversation.
I know Rich can attest to this, but really that's kind of how drummers I like really got started. Rich would just kind
Absolutely.
of go back there and he'd mingle and you start hanging out with guys that you look up to and you start talking and you realize real quick, like, hey man, it's just a dude like me.
Absolutely.
And the more we can bring that to as many people as we can, that's kind of the whole aim of the podcast. Every time they can get on here and hear, drummers that are doing it for a living, that are living the dream, hearing them talk and just realize, hey man, they're just like everybody else.
Exactly, dude.
So that's great. And it's definitely, your answer to number 6 was perfect. I mean, it's so important just to get out there, be a cool hang out with people, make sure they know who you are, record yourself, put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, nobody's going to know you're there.
Nobody. My dad is the best guitar player on earth. You'll never know it, and you'll never hear him play. He only plays in his house, in his bedroom. He says one day that he's going to create a hologram of him playing, and that way people will be able to watch him play venues and things like that. But he'll still be at home playing.
Now, what's held him back from just reaching out to a couple local guys just for a jam session?
He's just not like that. He used to play in a band a long time ago, but he's just not. He's an amazing guitar player, amazing blues guitar player. That it's like my prized possession. I get to hear.
Well, my dad's a bass player, and he's kind of the same way. So maybe you let your dad know. I'll let my dad know. Maybe they can send themselves back and forth tracks and play along to each other from home.
That's awesome. So I gotta say, Mike, you really killed these rapid singles, and
Yeah, that was great.
yeah, you nailed it. And that was, when me and Kevin first decided to kind of introduce this to the show, the thought process was to be able to run through those questions, just like you were like, up, got it, up, got it, up, got it. Just really cool, man. I appreciate the attention to detail and really being prepped for the show because, they're definitely meant to be quick and to the point.
Oh, yeah.
Drop some knowledge bombs for all them drummers out there.
Yeah, learn a thing, guys. I mean, this has got to be, once again, I feel like we just keep, every episode, our guests are bringing on more knowledge and more knowledge. And it's really like, opening my eyes to this new world of it's not just about playing as much as it is about playing. It's so much mental. It's so physical. It's so spiritual. There's so much about drums. It's not just sitting down and playing. And you really learn a lot more with everyone you talk to, especially people like you, Mike, who have experience from really both sides, being on the outside looking in and busting your ass to get on the inside and being able to really, reap the benefits.
That's what it's all about, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so, I think we've reached the end of our show, and before we really wrap things up, what I want to do is I want to give you some space here to, of course, give any shout-outs to anybody you'd like to say, hey, what's up or thanks to, and let all of our listeners know where can we find you, how can we get in contact with you if you're giving lessons, give that link, and of course, all that information will be in the show notes, so if you don't catch it quick enough to request now, it will be available afterwards.
And this is very important to all you drummers too. Always find one name, find one thing, and have everything be like that. Because when you have a YouTube channel that's Christopher 98888, and then an Instagram that's Johnny50, And then his Facebook is this. It's very hard for other musicians to contact you. So everything on mine is Levine Drums. That's it. All of my social media is going to be Levine Drums. And you can even check out my YouTube channel on Levine Drums as well.
Very important. Very important.
Cohesiveness. That's
and you know what? Just speaking from the my business is like hell bent on SEO and creating that consistency with brands, and that's the number one thing. I looked at your site. Just kind of coming from the from the website side, and Kevin hears it all the time too. So he's pretty honed too. He's writing SEO with me, and we're really impressed by your website, by the attention to detail of the social media, how easy it was for me to find everything. It was just like wow, very stellar. You're taking it. When I think of what a drummer needs to be today, you are the prime example.
I am very, very, very thankful that you said that, and I appreciate the compliment. I think that drummers need to realize that it's a brand. You're a brand. You're creating an art, and that art is a brand. And if you see how big brands succeed, it's cohesiveness, and that's what you got to do.
Absolutely.
But the shout-out wise, definitely Buddy Love, Custom Drums. He does all of my drum work. I tell him I come up with the most insane ideas and concepts, and he just does them. And he is definitely a partner that I love. So check out his stuff, Love Custom. I recently hooked up with Sweet Spot Clutches. They do like some amazing clutches. I was having issues with my cymbals because the way I hit them, they pretty much go horizontally. So I needed some really good clutches, and Sweet Spot Clutches were there. K-Brakes I saw at NAMM, this past NAMM, and the dudes were just so humble, so cool. And they sent me a pair of K-Brakes, and they're awesome. I always have an issue with my kick drum moving, as everyone does, and these things just lock on to the spurs. And they create a flat surface of the spurs, which I guarantee you that in the next cycle of drums that come out, you're going to start seeing flat spurs because it's perfect. If you think about it, you have this huge drum, and you got these two little spikes. They're supposed to keep this thing from moving while you use your massive leg to smash into it. Like it's overdated. And so they created these little flat square spurs that give more surface area to the legs, which is perfect. And they're amazing. Of course, Vader drumsticks. Can't play without sticks. I play 5Bs. I find it to be a perfect kind of middle ground stick. Remo heads. I went to a studio. I always played Evans, and then I went to a studio and recorded with Joseph McQueen, and he said, "You're never allowed to play without a Remo Ambassador on." And I was like, whatever. He put that on, and I played it, and I'll never go back.
Fell in love.
Yeah, it's a love. It's a love for sure. And then vinyl cymbals. I feel like they've, of course, been around forever, but they've been the transcender of cymbals now. If you notice, Sabian's now doing the big and ugly and all that stuff because they're trying to keep up with vinyl, because vinyl is king right now in trending cymbals. And not only is it trending, but it's trending because they sound amazing. They're gorgeous. My Mike Johnson transition ride, I've been through 8 of them.
So that's what. Oh, I love that ride.
Oh, me too.
I love that ride.
That
I've also been loving their classic custom dark crashes.
I love the darks. I've got a dark right now that I'm a Bison's dark that it's just so delicious. It's insane. And I think that's about it. Definitely check out K-Brakes. Check out Buddy Love. His stuff is awesome. His kits he's coming out right now. He has a CNC machine. He does like steel fabrication. So he's about to be working on some stuff that's insane. I have this concept of a drum set where it's all floor toms. So it's going to be 2 kick drums, and then it's going to be a 13, 14, 16, 18 floor toms, and I'm going to have 2 on one side, 2 on the other. And we're going to do a brushed brass with like a nickel hardware. It's just going to be stupid.
That sounds really cool.
I can't wait to see that.
I can't wait to see that.
I did the single floor tom for a very long time. I love that setup.
I just have this really cool idea of just doing all floor toms, and that's what I'm going to do. She's going to be massive, hitting tubs. And Ian always says, go slam in the tubs.
I like it. Slamming the tubs. I'm gonna slam the tubs tonight. I can't wait.
Hell yeah,
Got some
dude.
band practice tonight.
Yeah, you guys fucking kill it tonight, dude.
I'm gonna do the same.
Well,
I gotta set my
we
little
will try our
V-drums kit up
hardest.
outside and play in the middle of the dark, but it'll be worth it.
Hey,
Yeah, dude.
gotta do it. Gotta do it.
Awesome.
Well, Mike, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, man. This was fabulous, and you hit it out of the park. And we can't wait to catch up when you're either in the East Coast of Florida kind of area or out in LA.
Yeah, and not just you guys, but the viewers too. If you guys are listeners too, like if you guys see me in your town, come up, please. Let's go hang out. I'll buy you coffee. If you say that you were on this podcast, we'll go to Starbucks and I'll buy you a coffee.
Yeah, and if you do that, let us know too, and we'll give a shout out to whoever it was.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Cool. Cool, Mike. Well, I think that wraps it up here for the show.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate the honor to be able to talk with you guys and talk to your listeners and viewers.
No, the pleasure was ours, really, man. It was fabulous.
Yes. Once again,
Thanks a lot, man.
a lot of great knowledge. Thank you, Mike, and we'll definitely be in touch soon, man. Take care.
Go slam some tubs.
Yeah, you
That's
too.
right.
We're
Slam the
doing it.
tubs. Good night.
Good night. What a show that was, man.
Another one in the books. Another good one.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I guess in our minds they've all been good, right?
Yeah, they've all been really good. Yeah. Hard to believe, episode 15, we made it.
That's right.
I look at all my favorite podcasts I listen to, and they're like in the 300s and 400s, and I'm like, man, it is going to take a long time to get there.
It will, but we'll just keep on working.
Yeah, agreed. So what a good... He was like a freaking encyclopedia of knowledge. I felt like I couldn't even keep up. I was taking notes the whole time, and I'm like, wow, he's just full. There's just so much stuff going on here. He's super knowledgeable. It seems like he's taking a lot of time to understand what it takes to play his style of music. I mean, especially with the whole, taking time to switch around and move down to the only all floor tom setup and then challenge himself. It just shows how, taking it to that next level, you can push yourself to be a very unique drummer if need be.
And I really kind of expected, that setup to kind of stem from other, him seeing other drummers that were messing with kind of symmetrical setups like that. And to hear that he kind of did it just kind of almost from the show aspect, because he wanted people to be able to see him more and kind of have this different kind of setup. It's just kind of an interesting take on going that route,
Yeah, absolutely. Makes me I just miss having that hold on, I got my dog actually hanging out with me on my podcast and on the podcast right now. It's making too much noise. Get out.
Between your dog hanging out on the podcast and your mushmouth from earlier, we're definitely showing everybody we're a little human tonight.
Oh my gosh, yeah, sorry. You know what? And if you notice in the podcast I was a little mush mouth. I had to record in a very awkward situation today, and people just kept coming into the office and out of the office, and that was making my focus a little hard, but I still think we provided a pretty good show today.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
Very happy. I think all hopefully our listeners will take away a lot of good knowledge, because he dropped a lot of stuff on you. So, and like I said in the cast, I mean this cast is going to be on the internet for the duration. So
that freaking
listen
Rapid
to
Singles.
Rapid Singles was great, but just for all our listeners too, if you heard something, and listening to the podcast now, but maybe didn't pick up on other things, it's easy just to cue it back up and go back through and build all that knowledge.
Yeah, seriously. Yep. Don't forget, you can if you're subscribed or not, you can go back and scroll through, check out the show, take those notes. They'll be in the show notes, very thorough show notes tonight, and make sure you go back and listen to those Rapid Singles, because that was by far one of the strongest Rapid Single rounds I've had in the whole, since we've done it so far. He was ready to go. He had an answer. We ran through that in like 5 minutes, man.
Yeah, it was definitely the we set it up to be a lightning round, and it was fast. So
yep,
it was fast. We hit them Rapid Singles, man.
Yes, and I was very impressed by his marketing skills and how he understands that consistency is really key, especially when it comes to simple things such as your handles online, your social media names. all being the same.
Yeah.
It really plays a big part in your promotion and helping build your brand as a drummer. So if your name is dman_2112 on iTunes, thanks for that review, buddy. But then we go on your Instagram and you're like ddrum654224 lead 651. I can understand how that could be confusing, especially if you're like a sick drummer posting sick videos up. You want us to find you everywhere. So that was probably my favorite takeaway. One of my favorite takeaways. One of many.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many strong points that he
Right.
touched on, and some of them were quick and simple stuff, but a lot of stuff is overlooked. Drummers, especially that are trying to really get out there and gosh, what's the word? Apparently now I have mush mouth, but
Progress yourself.
see, this is what happens when you go and you sweat in a 100-degree warehouse for a while and come back and podcast, you lose your train of thought.
And I think it's fair. I think it's fair for the listeners to know that because of our extremely crazy schedule, sometimes we're recording at very odd times, and I think it's like 2 a.m. for Kevin right now. So everyone give him a nice high five for staying up late to make sure we get these things done.
Yeah, we're not quite that late, but it's getting pretty late for somebody who's going to be up for the day job quite early.
Oh yeah, not me. I will be dropping my wife off for a haircut tomorrow, and then going and standing in line for iPhones so she can have her beautiful iPhone that she wants so bad.
Beautiful hairdo with a beautiful iPhone. See that?
Happy
Aaron's
wife,
going to be in
happy
heaven
life.
tomorrow.
Yep, happy wife, happy life. If you're married out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, we both got early mornings. I think it's safe to cut this off, but why don't you for once let our instead of me doing it, let's have you let our users know where they can find us.
Oh, it's going to be easy. You can find us at let's see here, Facebook /Drummers I Like. You can find us at Drummers I Like on almost all our handles. I think Instagram is at Drummers I Like. Twitter is at Drummers I Like. And, just if you look for Drummers I Like, you're going to find us.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think I missed anybody, right?
No, you
I think
didn't.
I think I hit them all.
And I just want to double, triple point out that in our show notes, we have a link down there. You click on it, and it brings you to iTunes reviews. So for you Apple users out there, please go leave us a review. We're shouting out users like D_man2112. I love saying that name. I'm sorry, I just gotta keep saying it.
D-Man.
And next week we'll definitely read our favorite review then, and we're gonna keep this trend going. And if you love the show, go ahead and fill out that little subscribe button, email, and subscribe to the mailing list, because we're going to be putting out some newsletters here soon, and plus updating people on the podcast. And we are about to launch the world's sickest contest. Like, this is as sick as, I'm going to go back like 2 years ago to when we did that Halpern stick contest. That was one of the sickest contests we did. Or the one with the Warped Tour tickets. That was a pretty sick contest.
That was fun. Yeah, that was a good contest.
This definitely is going to be up there with that. Not only the value, but it's an invaluable prize. It's really cool. We're excited to be doing what we're doing, and just stay tuned, because we're going to be announcing through our first newsletter the details on that contest. So if you're subscribed, you will be one of the first lucky Apple iPhone 7 Drummers I Like newsletter pre-order newsletters.
Unless you're an Android user, then that's not the case.
I don't even want to talk. Well, why don't you go plug your Note 7 in and let it set aflame?
Oh, listen to you.
Bro, a million recalls?
For all those that don't know, Richard is an Android hater. He is Apple product to the core. So,
yeah.
And now everyone knows that.
Now everyone knows my dirty little secret.
I don't know. For those of us that know you well, we know it's no secret.
Me and Zach are consistently arguing.
Yeah, definitely. Keep paying attention through next week. I mean, we have some stuff coming up. I think we're going to be working on a news blog that'll be coming soon. So
yeah,
look for content on the site. Pay a visit. Let us know how we're doing.
Please.
It'll be good. It'll be good stuff to have in our newsletter. A little bit about the podcast for that week. We'll give you a good rundown of stuff to pay attention to. From the week before. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
What's coming? Yeah, man. So I think it's about that time to call it, and I'm gonna go to sleep. So
Yes.
I gotta say thanks to you, man. Thanks to Zach for all his help this week. Thank you to Brendan, and thank you to Tyler. And I just want to do a big shout out to the newest addition to the Drummers I Like team, Diana. Thank you for coming on and kicking ass with all these new graphics. If you haven't noticed yet, go over to the Instagram, all the social media feeds. We have got a cool little new style we've done with our designs, and that's all thanks to the newest graphic designer here. So go shout her out, go tell her how awesome the graphics are, because we are freaking stoked on bringing her onto the team. So thanks again to you, thanks to everybody, and thanks to you, Kevin. This is a great show. And thanks to Mike Levine. Shit, I almost left him out.
Yes, it was fabulous, and I can't wait to catch up with him when he's doing some more touring, and we hope you guys all take his advice too and look him up. He definitely, he offered to buy you a coffee, so you got to go take him up on it.
I'm getting that coffee, shit. You know I'm gonna get my coffee.
I gotta have my coffee. I think I was
some.
born with coffee in my hand, so.
I literally just drank some of that Starbucks cold brew. I gotta plug the fans. If you're drinking Starbucks and you're spending that $5 a cup, hold that wallet and hit Target and get the $5 cold brew. There's like 6 talls in there for $5. Save that money and get that cold brew. Hit that caffeine high. On that note, man, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys, thanks again for joining us, and stay tuned for next week's podcast. We got another great guest.
Night, everybody.
Triple six, nigga.
You broke rule number 1. Do not